heard about another alien film in the works. I was like, again, after that bore fest of Alien Covenant back in 2017, one of 20th Century Fox's last hoorahs with the franchise, I thought it would be better for this franchise just to fade into the darkness of space. It's like, what possibly more can be said for this franchise? What can be done? The original film, the 1970 film, is legendary. The sequel is legendary, and I just saw it not too long ago. The last two films before Prometheus deserve at least you tried award, maybe. At least you try. Alien vs. Predator is fun times. Prometheus was just alright to me. Some loved that film, some didn't like it. And at first I didn't know it was an alien prequel. It's funny. Now that Disney has hold of this franchise, there is a virus running around in Hollywood. I call it the stale virus. Most of these franchises in Hollywood have been infected with the stale virus. I want to ask writers in Hollywood, how many times are you going to have people riding to an island, being trapped on said island with dangerous animals, eating people? Yeah, I'm talking about Jurassic Park. But the Alien franchise is no different. Now, I really thought Alien Romulus could break the chain of the stale virus, and I had high hopes for this film, I really did. But enough of all the yapping and sapping. Now presenting you guys Alien Romulus Generation Z. Yeah, 'cause it's Alien for Generation Z.
Here's host, the Slayer of Evil.
Alien Romulus begins with member berries because we all know we like eating member berries while watching this film. Starting in 2142, a Weyland space probe investigates the wreckage of the Nostromo. Yeah, that shit from the original film. You guys remember that, right? Right? Yeah, make sure you remember that. Yeah, remember a better movie. It was destroyed 2 decades ago, so this film takes place between Alien and Aliens, because remember, from Aliens that Ripley slept for 50 to 57 years at the events of the original film. So this Weyland space probe collects a large cocoon and leaves for a secret research space station. Now, remember once again the events surrounding Aliens. Wouldn't the events of Alien Romulus be in some type of report with Weyland's Carter Burke that retrieving these alien eggs or anything related to it is almost a suicide mission as well? Because we all know in Aliens, they try to do the same thing again. Try to retrieve the alien eggs and facehuggers and all that from this colony to use as a bioweapon. What could possibly go wrong with that? Because I do remember also as well, Weyland wanted samples of these creatures. And once Ripley found out, Carter tried to kill her. Well, humans will always be humans, always looking for ways for profit, despite how dangerous to achieve those profits can be. But back to the past. Weyland scientists opened the cocoon, and what do you know? There's a xenomorph. And not just any old xenomorph. A xenomorph, the original film, is inside. I can't see anything wrong happening with this. But many months later, we meet a young woman named Rain, whatever you want to call it, and her adopted brother, Andy, who work on this mining colony called the Jackson Star on LV-410. I do say the cinematography on the mining colony gives me that 80s sci-fi action vibes. Kind of reminds me of Total Recall for some reason. But Rain, she has an issue. She works on the colony, and her work on the colony has been extended by this demonic company, Weyland. Yeah, I called him that. And her adoptive brother, Andy, is not really all human, but a malfunctioning android. Yep, you gotta have an android. You gotta have some type of AI in every film now. And it wouldn't be an alien film. Gotta check that box off. Well, it seems like Ryan and any troubles may be vanishing. Once Ryan's ex-boyfriend Tyler comes to her with a plan to travel to a beat-up space station to obtain cryostasis chambers that will allow them to escape the clutches of the Pharaoh, aka Wayland, to arrive in the land of milk and honey, if you get my reference. Our Israelites will need Andy, who can interface with the onboard computer, but Ryan doesn't really feel that plan, but dreams of the promised land of milk and honey. And with a little assurance from both Tyler and Andy, she finally agrees to Exodus. Well, the cast are Israelites on board this spacecraft to reach the Renaissance, a Wayland research station that is divided between two parts, Remus and Romulus, a reference to the Roman fable or legend. In this crew of Israelites, you get to meet Tyler, once again, Ryan Rain's ex-boyfriend, Tyler's sister, Kay, and their annoying cousin, Borgia, and her adopted sister, Navarro. Well, like in all alien films in the past, what must go wrong will go wrong.
Boy, let's kick some ice.
On board, the crew discover the chambers don't have enough coolant for the 9-year trip to the promised land. But they do locate a crowded chamber that still works, and they try to scavenge it for its fuel. Accidentally disable the temperature control system that keeps the facehuggers on ice. And might I remind you all that these facehuggers are all cloned, so let the chaos begin. In order to stop the chaos from the facehuggers, they must override the lockdown that caused this chaos in the first place. So Ryan installs a chip from the damaged android they found on board. The name of the android, Rook. The chip is installed into Andy. Before that chip was installed into Andy, Andy had this almost childish, humble demeanor to him. But after the chip was installed, he started acting like his cousins from the past films. He overrides the lockdown, but now he becomes loyal to the evil empire. Wayland Yutani. Is that how you pronounce the last part? I always say Wayland. The crew is chased by a horde of these clone facehuggers, which isn't that bad of a scene. It actually is a great scene of suspense. Getting chased down by facehuggers would be a frightening event to experience. But Navarro becomes a nesting ground for a facehugger, and will be the only person in this film to get facehugged by a facehugger. Cannot have no one becoming a victim to a facehugger in this movie, it wouldn't be an alien film. Now would it? No, it wouldn't. Rook is eventually activated by Ryan, and he gives us insight on what happened to the Xenomorph from the previous film. It went on a rampage inside the said station, killing everyone, adding more to his body count before itself was terminated. Well, our crew of Young tried to save Navarro, despite Rook calling their attempts hopeless, but they managed to remove the facehugger from her face. But does this save her? Absolutely not. Andy tries to stop Navarro from reaching the transport, but Bourne allows her to flee, and I guess Bourne is not a big fan of androids. Well, he's not the only one. A lot of people in this franchise are not fans of the androids. You do remember Ripley and not being a big fan of the android, and probably some of the crew from the Covenant were really fans of the androids. Well, unfortunately, Navarro dies. The chestbuster flees, busting out of her chest, but in her death throes, a control stick is not, sending their ship into the Romulus loading bay, causing the entire ship, which is called the Renaissance to remember, to crash into rings of the Jackson Star within an hour. Just straight chaos everywhere. But it's also revealed Kay, Tyler's sister, is pregnant. But she lets us know that the deed was done by some guy on a colony she saw at a bar. Right. Many years into the future, you know what, never mind. I'm not even going to go there and say that. I'm not going to say that. Well, anyways, Angry Bourne runs into the growing alien who cocooned himself now, and it's really nasty. I don't know Who's a nastier creature, the creature from the thing or the xenomorphs? But Bourne does meet his end when he tries to electrocute the cocoon. He is stabbed in the eye, and then acid blood rains down on his heart, and it kills his heart. What a complete dumbass.
You big dummy.
Now, not only did he get himself deleted, but he also caused the xenomorph to excel in its growth because he electrocuted that nasty ass cocoon and also chased Kay off the ship. And did I mention that there was a key scene within this scene who lets us know who the father of Kay child is? Well, before Bourne meets his end date, Bourne and Kay had some moment on board the ship. Bourne's child is inside of Kay. But hey, wait a minute. Weren't Kay and Bourne cousins? I hope that's a fifth cousin removed, but more chaos continues. Now Andy has become an asshole. Kay tries to escape the clutches of this new alien, this new xenomorph, but in order for that to happen, Andy must open the door. But he refuses to open said door, and Kay becomes a slave to the xenomorphs. But she's bitten. More on that in a sec. Now there is some more aspect to this scene. Was Andy wrong for letting Kay perish? Or was he right? In his defense, you let Kay in, you let the xenomorph in, and there's no way they can fight that creature unless they have Superman or Batman to help them, and the last time I checked, there was no Batman or Superman in this film. So sorry, Kay, you become a sacrificial lamb. With his new mission statement, Andy leads Tyler and Ryan into a lab. With this scene right here, Ryan is taught how to fire a gun. We get callbacks from Prometheus, because we all remember that film, right? Andy discovers samples of an experimental fluid from the xenomorphs called Z01, aka Prometheus Fire, as called by Rook. Well, Wayland created this as a way for humans to survive conditions that xenomorphs can. We get an example of that with an experiment with a dead rat. This dead rat is given Z01, and it has been revived. But more on that later. Rook informs Andy that the fluid must be taken back to the colony. Rook takes over the controls of the cruise ship and will not allow them to leave until those samples reach the cruise vessel. So no soup for you. All three characters act like space marines from Aliens arriving in the xenomorph's lair, but they find the remains of victims. And of course they find Kay, because Tyler was following her cries to her location. But she is released. But Andy notices something about Kay's injuries on her neck and decides and prescribes she takes to Prometheus Fire. Not knowing the end result of that experiment, what they did not see, Andy, Ryan, or Tyler did not see, that the rat from earlier died. It exploded, mutated on itself. And the chaos is just beginning. Now, the xenomorphs attacking, they kill Tyler. Kay flees back to the ship. Ryan instructs her to fire up the ship because now the xenomorphs want more blood, and Romulus will crash into the rings of Jupiter, aka Jackson, whatever it's called, very soon. So get to stepping, Kay. Ryan reprograms Andy back to normal. Now, Rain shuts off the gravity because it calls everyone to float, of course, in the air, and Rain shoots and attacks the xenomorphs who are attacking them. I just say this scene is very cool, of Rain shooting these aliens, avoiding the acid blood, and the acid blood killing the other xenomorphs. Plus now the two have to deal with holes in the ship and the vacuum of space peeking his head in, but that doesn't matter. Andy and Ryan attempt to escape via elevator, but these beasts don't take no for an answer. They continue to advance on our humans. But for some reason, these scenes remind me of Empire Strikes Back. Not the actual action, but the colors, the color palette, the cinematography, the cold looking colors, grayish colors mixed in with some slight wind. I don't know, maybe it's just me. It just reminds me of Empire Strikes Back. Rain almost meets her end, falling down the elevator shaft until she is saved by the Xenomorph. But they destroy the Xenomorph and they make their way back to their own ship as the Renaissance, Romulus, and Remus crash into the rings of Jackson 5. I don't know if it's called Jackson 5, but it's called Jackson. Some Jackson Star, Jackson 5, Jackson 6, I don't know. In this incident, it kills Rook and the rest of the Xenomorphs on board. Well, now that you think about it, it kind of makes sense that Weyland never received word about this in 30-something years. The events were lost on board the ship once the Renaissance was destroyed. Part of the reason why Weyland used the colonists and aliens to go find other means of using the Xenomorphs as bioweapons, and they got that movie going on. It also explains, in later movies, there's no mention of Prometheus Fire, or Z01, since that was destroyed upon the research ships too. Well, that's one thing, explaining things and making sure they don't exist in future movies that are made in the past. Well, Andy, Kay, and Rain Ryan all live happily ever after. Kay has a beautiful baby boy months later, becomes a single mom. While Rain Ryan lives in harmony on this new planet, right? Hell no!
Right? Wrong.
And people, this is where Ridley Scott's influence begins and the film's director, Fede Alvarez's influence ends. And people, this is where the film went wrong, at least in my opinion. Remember that stale virus I talked about earlier? Well, alien Romulus is infected by it. So, you do remember when Kay took that Prometheus fire, right? Well, her neck wound's healed, but it causes her baby to mutate. And upon Rain Ryan's discovery, Kay gives birth to a giant egg. That egg hatches, revealing an engineer-like baby. You know, you remember Prometheus, right? Yeah, you remember the engineers from Prometheus? More chaos. Well, that baby grows to a 7'7" giant, resembling an engineer and a xenomorph, like we haven't seen this before in Alien Resurrection. Well, Kay becomes baby food. Andy is damaged by the offspring, and now it's up to Rain Ryan to fight this creature. Like we haven't seen this before in Alien to Alien Covenant, but it gets better. Rain Ryan defeats this hideous creature around the ship by knocking it into the vacuum of space. People, talk about your copy and paste. Couldn't come up with anything new outside throwing the alien into space to kill it now, did they? Hell no. In Aliens, you remember Ripley's tussle with the Queen Xenomorph. Well, that was more engaging than this. Shoot, Iron Man and Spider-Man doing the same thing to Ebony Maw in Avengers Infinity War was more engaging than this. It's like they ran out of ideals for the ending, or thought it'd be cute for the audiences to see this once again. And then Rain and Andy live happily ever after on their way to this new planet. Before we go on with the show, how about you guys like, share, subscribe to Franchise History TV, even comment down in the comments down below. I'm also on Instagram at franchise_TV and on Twitter at TV_franchise. I also have two other channels if you guys are interested: Lone Wolf Adventure TV and Franchise 2 Sports. So yeah, subscribe to those three channels. And also like, share, subscribe on all three of them. I say subscribe 3 times. I'm done. Bye. Now, I'm willing to overlook some of the copy and paste for now. But let me speak about the relationships and some of the motivations. Now, Rain Ryan and Andy's relationship was a heartwarming one to me. I don't know why. I just don't know why. But let's look at the facts. Ryan's an orphan. Kind of feel bad for her. Maybe. Some of us might. I don't know about me. All we know that her dad passed away before the events of the movie and left her with an android that's masquerading as her black brother. Like I said, this movie has it all. Cousin on cousin action, not seen in film. Black brother that's an android, brother to a white woman. It is what it is. But let's talk about these characters' motivation. It's something we can all probably relate to, and I always go back to the classic film trope of the protagonist wanting to leave the city, town, or planet for greener pastures. You remember Luke Skywalker, right? He dreamed of the stars above Tatooine. He didn't see himself as a moisture farmer any longer. He didn't want to sit there with his own uncle. Especially not when your dad was one of the greatest Jedi Sith ever. Did I say that? And your mother was a prominent political figure in the galaxy. And your what could have been possibly your godfather was also a great Jedi master. Yeah, I said Obi-Wan could have been a godfather. You never know. If everything went to plan, Obi-Wan could have been a godfather. But here's Luke Skywalker on this dusty ass planet with his uncle not doing the damn thing he wants to do in life. Even in real life, we wish to leave the area we're currently in, wishing for greener pastures. I know I am. I'm in a predicament as we speak. Can't stand Arizona. But back to Rain Ryan. She's in a similar position, as well as her friends. The Jackson 5-star colony doesn't look like the most appetizing place to live in. And mining isn't the sweetest job in sci-fi. And it's a smack to her face. She really thought she would be free of the wailing Yutani Empire. But like I said earlier, they pulled the chair on her. Big time. And they probably did similar to her friends. So at this point, shoot, I ain't gonna stay here any longer. I'm gonna find a way to get out. And hearing about this new planet sounds like it may be the place to be, but it only costs the lives of everyone except for Andy and Rain Ryan. Someone had to perish. But the writing for the characters' motivation is fine. And I get that mixing it out, well, with the alien lore, but sorry, I can't get past the callbacks, the copy and paste the Easter eggs from previous films in this franchise. Now, there was a film called Twisters that was released in the summertime of 2024, and that film did its best to avoid the 1996 original film, never mentioning or connecting the dots or events of that film to the sequel. Alien Romulus did. They tried to connect the dots, and I feel in the background Ridley Scott and James Cameron, maybe, had more influence than let on, or I could be wrong. The execution towards the end of the film was repackaged using the same way to kill the alien, dump him into space. I can't get with that. Do something new. Now, I do give credit for the production, choosing suits, and the animatronic is still overloading this film with CGI. But the deepfake and the AI for Ian Holm was uncalled for. Hollywood is starting to have this thing for using deceased actors and deepfaking them and using AI. I think that was part of the strike last year, wasn't it? I think I asked the Peter Cushing state about that. As for the offspring, it was portrayed by a Romanian basketball player that stands 7'7", so there it is. But here's what director Freddy Alvarez had to say about using practical effects in said films that he has made. In an interview with Screen Rant at San Diego Comic-Con, he says, well, every movie is a film school in some way. You learn so much. I'm sure these guys learn too. Every experience in every movie you make, you come out the other end learning lots of things. Sometimes good things, sometimes bad things, I think. I think with Evil Dead, because he is the director of the 2013 Evil Dead, not the one from 2023, it was a whole idea that the practical was scarier. That's for sure. It was time when lots of people were doing CGI, blood and gags, flying. It was always like that. We kind of reset the clocks back to start doing things practical at the time and really translate it in the movie. I think people loved that kind of movie and really responded to it. It felt so scary and really. And Don't Breathe was mostly about that suspense and the most powerful tool for horror, right? You don't have anything on that movie. We have a hallway, a couple of kids. There was nothing. And it was all really what was happening in camera and what we expected to see next. that really held together. There's lots of that in this movie, as well. It really relies on lots of suspense. And there was some of that in this movie, Alien Romulus with the face huggers, for example. So, props for the director for using practical effects, something I actually like. But, once again, I gotta bring this up. Despite the deepfakes, the copy and paste moments of the film, I did not hate this film. I thought it was okay, nothing to move the needle among the franchise films. Original still king, Aliens 2 still a wonderful film, but I'll pay Alien Romulus over Alien Covenant because that film was a sleep fest to me, and young Magneto could not save that one with his double work with two different androids that looked the same. Everybody else in that film was just bland. But I would probably put this film, Alien Romulus, of course, maybe over Alien Resurrection, Aliens 3, maybe behind Prometheus, and Alien vs. Predator. I don't know, but 2, get 2 out of here. I don't know what that was. And one more thing, before I leave out. It's good to have an opinion. We don't all have to be a monolith. Like I said before, I didn't hate this film, nor I really was like wow with it. But it did fall into the still virus. But I guess now the Alien franchise will have a TV show. Great. Big time franchises with TV shows. Sometimes they go as planned, sometimes they take a big dookie inside the toilet bowl. But it's whatever. I ain't watching it.